Hi everyone, this is Joe Blewett, back with you with my Aunt Sally, Sally O'Connell, and we're picking up the interview, and this time we're going to focus in this segment around our ancestry, our Irish ancestry, and kind of how that flowed into the United States, and some cousins, and some information that you have in your head that none of us do, and we're really looking forward to documenting this and also learning some things here today. So let's start with your parents' names. What were your parents' names, and then we'll talk about their parents.
Daniel O'Connell and Sarah Shields O'Connell.
And that's my grandparents on my mother's side. And
Yeah.
what were Sarah Shields O'Connell, her parents? That's so we.
They were William Shields and Sarah Logue.
Right. And how about your father's mother and father? So Daniel O'Connell's parents.
Daniel O'Connell and Mary Farrell O'Connell.
Very good. And as a note, William Shields and Sarah Logue. So William Shields, again, who's her grandparents, her great-grandparents were named Patrick Shields and Catherine Montague. And that's important because that's kind of the furthest back that we go, that I have records of anyhow, in terms of on the Shield side of the tree. And he was a postmaster in a place in County Tyrone, which is in Northern Ireland, in a town called Alta Muskin. And that's kind of where the furthest back that I'm aware of that we can go in our ancestry. And there's a lot of Shields still in that area, which I've had the pleasure of meeting recently, or seeing again, and getting some background in a recent trip I did to Ireland. So let's just talk, in this segment, let's kind of try to focus on one side of the family first.
Okay, fine.
Of your parents' side. I think we've already kind of started with the Shields, so let's go there. So your mother, Sarah, so there's a lot here. She's one of seven, seven brothers and sisters, and I'm going to read them to you. Then we'll talk a little bit about each one of them. And Sarah, first of all, we knew her as Tot Shields.
Yeah, that's important.
Now, would her brothers and sisters have called her Tot, or was it something she picked up later on in life?
No, I think she had that name most of her life.
Okay.
I think her father gave her that name.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's the only, I don't even know if I knew her name was Sarah. We always just knew her as Tot. So she had, again, six brothers and sisters, a total of seven. Their names were Catherine. Also, she went by Kitty. John, James, William, Margaret, and Helen. So let's talk about each of them and what you remember and know about them. So first of all, let's start with Catherine, or Kitty. And also, we always know her as Aunt Kitty, right?
Yes.
And that would be what you called her as well, right?
Yes. Well, we were all close to Aunt Kitty. She lived in the same town, Montclair, when we were growing up. And she was good to us. Yes, very kind to us.
I always remember Aunt Kitty as being somewhat wealthy. She usually had a fur coat on or something, and some fine jewelry.
Yes.
And
her husband, Bob Bradley, was a very successful man. He owned a lumber company in Montclair.
Interesting. I think what was the name of that lumber company you had told me earlier?
The Robert J. Bradley Lumber Company.
But I think he died fairly young, because Aunt Kitty, I always knew her as a widow.
He did. He died in 1945. He had clogged arteries, and at that time they had no stents or anything to help anybody with that problem, and he died very suddenly. There was nothing they could do for Uncle Bob. And he was a great gentleman.
And did they have any kids?
No.
I think that's going to be an interesting pattern as we go through your mother's brothers and sisters.
Yes.
So next is John. How about John? Oh, actually, you know what? Before we go, let's talk a little bit more about Aunt Kitty. What do you know about Aunt? What do you remember about Aunt Kitty? I was young when she passed, but I have a very specific memory of her, but what do you think about when you think about your Aunt Kitty?
Well, Aunt Kitty was a very elegant lady, and she had a very elegant house, and we went there every year on Thanksgiving, and she provided a very elegant dinner, and we all wore our Sunday best to go to Aunt Kitty's house,
Yep.
and I always enjoyed it.
Yeah,
I always enjoyed it.
yeah, to me, she was the word elegant is perfect. I mean,
Yes.
She had her hair perfect.
Yes.
I think there was plastic on all the furniture that I remember.
Oh, yes.
You had to be real careful when you went to Aunt Kitty's house.
She was a very meticulous
Yeah.
housekeeper.
But she was also very nice and very friendly. She wasn't,
She was.
to me anyhow, I remember her as very.
She was. I
was
know
an
she
interesting mix.
enjoyed you children. But I'm sure when you went to her house, she kept an eye on you to make sure you didn't get anything messed up.
Yeah, yeah, but not in a bad way though. She was
Yeah.
I really remember her as very fondly.
Yeah.
All right, so what about John? This is your mother's brother, John.
John died, I think he was about 15 or 16. My mother said he was a very, very bright young man. And unfortunately, he used to swim in the East River, and he caught spinal meningitis, and they couldn't do anything to help him. He died.
Wow.
And that was a great loss to the family.
And then there's James. Well, I think he went by Jim, right? Was it Jimmy or Jim?
Jim.
Uh-huh.
Yes, Uncle Jim, he and his wife didn't have children, so he always counted us sort of as his children, and we enjoyed Uncle Jim. And he worked for the New York subway system.
Okay.
Exactly what he did, I have no idea.
And did they have children?
No, they had no children.
Yep.
And Aunt Frances, his wife, was a great knitter, and she would make sweaters for all of us and for all the babies that came along in the family. They always got a hand knit sweater from Aunt Frances.
So Aunt Frances, we
And
became close to
an
her.
interesting thing is that
Yeah.
Aunt Frances was Jewish.
Yes. Yep. And we loved Aunt Frances. She lived with us for a few years
Yes,
towards the
yes.
end of her life.
She was a very sweet person.
In my teenage years, there wasn't very many people kids left in the house, so
That's right.
she got a bedroom in our house for
And-
I bet you 2 years at least. I don't
At
remember
least,
for
I
sure.
think, yes.
Do you
She was-
remember if did she pass while she was living with us, or
No,
did she went to
no.
a nursing home or something?
She went down to Florida
Oh.
because her sister-in-law was in Florida,
Okay.
and they wanted her down there. She died in Florida. I don't know exactly when.
Yeah, Aunt Frances was very little. I bet you she was
Yes,
barely
she was
5 feet
tiny.
tall.
Yes.
One anecdote I remember about Aunt Frances, she grew up in some part during the Depression, so she was very frugal, and she used to use her tea bag multiple times. She never threw away a tea bag without, and she would eat every scrap of meat, including the fat. It was just a few things of
Yeah.
her Depression
And
days.
one thing about Aunt Frances, she and Uncle Jim used to come out to visit us. And she used to bring a loaf of Jewish rye bread,
Oh, that's
which
right.
we all dearly love. So she had to bring 2 loaves of Jewish rye bread, because that was the big thing we looked forward to when they came.
Very interesting. Yeah, fond memories also of Aunt Frances. So then the next would be William, right? Or Bill?
Bill, Uncle Bill. Yes, he was, Uncle Bill, well, I know for a while he was a chauffeur for a wealthy family, and this was before I was born. And he used to take my sister Kay and Virginia in this big limo that he was supposed to drive for the family he worked for. And he used to take them down to Sandy Hook to swim there. I know Kay used to tell me about that. became my oldest sister.
And I think they might have had one child that died as an
Yes,
infant.
a child died when he was born. And then he and his wife Nora separated and divorced. And he married another woman, Betty. And then Uncle Bill was a bricklayer, and he didn't find too much business in the metropolitan area. So they moved out to California, where he did much better at finding work. He was successful there, and they had a nice home that they bought. And in fact, I visited out there. I think it was after his wife Betty had died, and Uncle Bill showed me a good time around LA. They lived in North Hollywood, California.
Interesting. I don't remember if I met him or not.
You don't
My guess is
remember
that
him?
maybe he died before I was
Okay.
already lived in California. Maybe I just never saw. I don't remember him personally. My brothers and sisters and our cousins might.
Yeah.
Okay, then there's two more. Margaret and Helen. I asked them about them both because I think there's similar answers about.
Well,
both
they
of them.
died as babies.
Yeah.
Well, my grandmother, my mother's mother, died when she was about 36 years old of a ruptured appendix, and she left 7 children.
Wow.
And 2 of them were Margaret and Helen, who were just babies or very, very young, and they died in early childhood.
And I think now to go backwards now, my understanding is that your grandparents, Bill Shields and Sarah Logue Shields, they immigrated into America, but they're from County Tyrone in Ireland, right?
Correct.
And my understanding is that, again, William Shields was the son of Patrick Shields in a place called Altamuscan.
Altamuscan, yes.
And Patrick Shields, your great-grandfather, was the postmaster there.
Correct.
And you visited there several times. Why don't you tell us a little about that area?
I think I visited there 3 times,
Wow.
3 or 4 times, I guess. And it was still a post office when I visited there, and there was a postmistress at that time, Marion Shields, and she did not have children. I don't know exactly how she was related to us, but she became the postmistress. That post office was eventually closed.
Well, there's just a sidetrack, or a sidebar here. There's a gentleman named Seamus Shields, who was a cousin of our grandmother in some way. I don't know the exact connection. Who was married to a woman named Una Shields, and Una is
Yes.
still alive and still lives in the 6
She's
mile
still
cross
alive.
area.
Well, good for her.
And Seamus was a politician of some sort in the area.
Yes, he died.
He died, I
Okay.
think, within the last maybe 8 years or so. I can't remember the year.
Okay,
And he has a daughter named Dervla.
okay, now what?
And Dervla and I got to see Dervla twice this year, in June
Okay.
and in October. And they still live in, I'm sorry, they don't. They live in south of Belfast, but still in Northern Ireland.
Okay,
And got to know her and her husband, and she has 3 daughters.
oh, she does.
And that's all connected to the same Shields family from 6 Mile Across.
Okay, well, that's
So it's
interesting.
been a really nice reconnection.
I never met them.
So that family again on your mother's side goes back to Northern Ireland in County Tyrone,
Yes,
and I think there's other Shields that from that side that moved to even out west in Nebraska
Yes.
and South Dakota and.
well, when my grandfather, William Shields, came from Ireland, I think it must have been in the 1880s, and he came with two brothers.
Hmm.
And when they got to New York, the two brothers went to Omaha, Nebraska. Now, whether they knew somebody there or not, I don't know. There must have been something to draw them to Omaha, Nebraska. But my grandfather, William Shields, stayed in New York. He had a cousin in New York named John Shields, who owned a pub on East 42nd Street.
Wow.
I think it was East 42nd and 3rd Avenue. And my grandfather, William, worked for him. So I guess that was the reason my grandfather stayed in New York. He had promise of employment there.
And your mother was born in New York as well then?
Yes, she was, the whole family.
Very interesting.
Mhm.
Well, so, when I think about our family ancestry, I certainly think of the O'Connell name because that's the name that my mother carried. There's a
Right.
very strong Irish ancestry on the Shield side, and we have
Yes,
quite a bit of
yes.
information and still have some connections to that part of the family,
Good,
which is really interesting.
good. I'm glad you feel that way, Joe.
So thanks for that. So let's shift over to the O'Connell side. So first of all, I think it'd be interesting to talk about the name O'Connell in Ireland. There's a very famous gentleman who happens to also be named Daniel O'Connell. And I think he goes by the name, referred to him as the Great Liberator.
Yes.
And there's a connection there back to where your grandfather is named Daniel O'Connell as well. And where is he from in Ireland? Your father's father, Daniel O'Connell. He was born.
He's from, the town is called Caersaiveen,
Yeah.
and there was a section of Caersaiveen called Emlochmore, and that's all I know about it.
Yeah. And
Except that you told me that you were standing on a farm that had been owned by my great-grandfather in something like the 1850s.
correct. I'm still just.
It's still used as a
We're-
farm by somebody.
There's still some work to be done to confirm that that's accurate. Correct. I'm fairly. I have some good reason to believe that that's accurate, but we're still doing some research. But the interesting thing is, I have a death notice of your grandfather, whose name was Daniel O'Connell. He was also born in Caersaiveen, which is the connection. Not to get too confusing, but the Great Liberator, who was basically part of the Irish independence move, was named Daniel O'Connell. He was from the same area called Caersaiveen in County Kerry. And but we have a very small section of Caersaiveen, which is called Emlochmore, right? Am I saying it right? I'm saying it right. Emlochmore.
Yeah.
And there's a death notice of my great grandfather, your grandfather, and he died in 1923. Am I wrong here?
No, you're right.
Okay. And I'm just going to read this death notice because I don't know if a lot of people have never seen this, right? But this is our connection on the O'Connell side back to Ireland. And it says, suddenly on March 9th, 1923, Daniel O'Connell, formerly of Yorkville, it's in New York, and the 9th Ward, Manhattan, the beloved husband of the late Mary Farrell O'Connell, which is, my computer just slept on me. That's so funny. Of Mary Farrell O'Connell, native, and then he was a native of Emlochmore in Caersaiveen, County Kerry, Ireland. He was the father of Alice, Daniel, Anne, Thomas, James, and the late Irene O'Connell, and also Mrs. Patrick Fox, Mrs. James Fogarty, and Mrs. James Kane. He was a resident of 261 East 37th Street in Flatbush. This is all, again, your grandfather.
Okay.
And then funeral arrangements, etc. And the women in this death notice are referred to as their husband's first name. So just to add to that, so Catherine Fogarty Um, so Fogarty, her name was actually Catherine, and she went by Cassie,
She was called Cassie.
right?
Yes.
And then James Kane, Mrs. James Kane, was named Grace, correct? And Mrs. Patrick Fox, her name was actually Delia. So I found, or someone shared with me, a birth certificate of what would be your uncle, James Patrick O'Connell, and
Yes.
he was born in 1897, and they list on here, they say that he, in the birth certificate, says that there was previously to him being born, the number of previous children was 11, and how many were still living at that point was 10, which would leave us to believe that your father was one of 12 kids.
Yes.
It's amazing. And actually, not all of them are listed in that death notice. There's only, I think, 9 or 10 names in the death notice.
Okay.
So yeah, let's talk a little bit about what would be your aunts and uncles, which are listed in this death notice. And these are all your father's brothers and sisters, right?
Mhm.
So let's start. I'll just go in order that are listed here. So there was an Alice. What do you know
Alice.
about Alice? Tell us
Yes.
about Alice. Tell us about Alice.
Oh, Alice, she lived with the Canes, and I think she wasn't a fully developed person. I'm not sure. She just was behind a lot of other people.
Okay.
And she always lived with the Canes, and I just knew that she was Alice.
Interesting. So she's never married, and
No.
but this is now your Aunt Alice, though, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And then you have Anne, or I think it goes by. Did you tell me it goes by Annie?
We called her Aunt Annie, and she worked in McCreary's department store, which was on 34th Street in New York City. She worked there for years. Aunt Annie.
And she also never got married, correct?
She never married, no.
Yeah. And how about Thomas?
Thomas, I don't know too much about him. He lived with the Canes in that house. I think he had a room on the top floor. And sometimes we'd go there and we wouldn't see him at all.
Okay. Very good. So the Canes took in 2 of your father's siblings.
Yes, you're right about that.
Very interesting.
You're right about that, Joe.
So let's see. So I got Thomas, and then there's James. So James was the birth certificate, born in 1897.
Yes.
James Patrick. What do you know about him?
I just know that I never learned about him for some time, and I remember asking my mother, and she told me that he was in a state institution. I think he may have had mental problems.
Okay. And then now we go into, actually there's a late Irene O'Connell. So Irene
Yes.
is your father's sister.
Yes.
Predeceased your grandfather.
Yes. She was my father's sister. You said she predeceased?
Yeah, because in your grandfather's obituary, she had already passed.
Oh,
So
okay.
he says the late Irene
Right,
O'Connell. Yeah.
right. She was a nurse
Oh,
who died during the Spanish flu epidemic.
no kidding.
Mhm.
That's another nurse in the family.
Yeah,
There's a lot
so-
of nurses in
So
the.
my sister Irene, who became a nurse, was named after her.
Wow, that's really interesting. Okay, I would love to find out more about how she died and her background, because probably being a nurse back in those days
Was not easy.
yeah,
Not easy at
very
all.
interesting. Okay, and then there's the sisters, your father's sisters, who were married. So there's Mrs. Patrick Fox. Again, she went by, her name was Delia.
Delia, yes.
Let's talk about the Fox family. these are our cousins that we grew up with, and
Yes.
and certainly were your first cousins, right?
Yes, they were. And there was Dan Fox, Tom Fox, Vincent Fox, and Mary Fox. Vincent and Mary were twins. And unfortunately, Vincent contracted polio, and he was very lame as a result. They didn't have the treatments that we have today. But he was, I enjoyed Vincent. He was very jovial, very well-read, knew all about current events. You know, he was a very lively person. Vincent, you remember him, too?
I do, actually. I do. Yeah.
Yes.
I don't remember Delia. I maybe again I'm the young side of this family, but I
You
do
don't
remember.
Aunt Delia?
Not really, but certainly the next level of the Foxes is where my cousins came in, right? So
Yes.
Tom Fox's sons and daughters were the Fox family in Long Island
That's
that
right.
we had some great times visiting
Yes,
them
didn't we?
in the summers
We had
especially.
wonderful times with them. And then there was Dan Fox. He was a New York State parole officer,
Okay.
and he died rather young. I don't know what he died of. And then Tom Fox was a social worker. He was a graduate of Fordham School of Social Work, and he married Harriet, who was also in that school.
Yeah.
And they had, I think, 6 children, and they lived out on Long Island.
Belmar.
Yes, you're right, Elmore.
So that's the Fox family. So Tom Fox would have been your first cousin.
Oh, yes.
Yep. So all the Fox families it's always hard to get this straight, but there are second cousins, and you know my siblings and the Foxes are second cousins,
That's right.
along with the Rileys and
That's right.
the Rivers and obviously the Krauses. So we're all second cousins of the Foxes.
Yes.
All right, let's go on to the next family, which is the Fogartys.
The
So
Fogartys, yes.
James Fogarty was your father's brother-in-law, and was married to your father's sister, who was Cassie
Cassie.
O'Connell.
Yes.
And tell
No, I
us.
never knew him,
Okay.
James Fogarty. I never knew him. He died when his family was rather young.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yes.
So and the Fogarty again. There were sons of that family. Sons. There were
Yes.
several, right?
There was Dan Fogarty.
Yeah.
He became a policeman in New York City.
Yeah.
There was Michael Fogarty. He worked for Western Union, I think. And then Gerard Fogarty became a priest.
Yeah. And what was his name as a priest?
Father Matthew.
Yeah. You know, is that just? Because I always remember nuns would get a new name. Did he get a new name, or was that just
Yes,
his
they
middle
gave
name
him a new name.
as a priest?
They made, he was, actually, he grew up as Gerard,
Okay.
but they gave him a new name when he went into the order. And
So Father Matthew.
So
Who was
what-
that? He was part of a lot of our family
yes, he used
family
to visit a lot.
he would say
Yeah.
mass at family reunions, and
Exactly.
I'm sure he probably was involved in funeral services and things like that,
He
right?
enjoyed being with us, apparently.
Got it. So then there's the last one of again, this is your father's sister, was a Kane, and
Grace Kane.
Grace Kane, and she was married to James Kane.
Yes,
And tell us about that family.
well, the father, James Kane, was a jeweler, and he died when the family was quite young. I never knew him, and she had 4 daughters and 1 son.
Okay.
The son was Jimmy, and the daughters no, I think they had 3 daughters. And they were Grace, Alice, and Joan.
Wow. Very interesting. So this was a big family. So if you look at your mother's side of the family, the Shield side, there were no kids. Besides,
right.
your mother was the only one who had any kids.
That's right.
Except for the one who died as an infant.
That's right.
But your father's side, large family with a lot of cousins.
Yes.
So, and we certainly saw them at all the family reunions as we were younger.
Well, there were a lot of second cousins on my mother's side who lived in Montclair, but we didn't get into them in this project.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that.
I could tell you about them another time.
Sure. So I'm just going to wrap this up. I think there's an interesting thing that Aunt Sally had referred to earlier was in the summer, this past summer, I traveled to Ireland to County Kerry. There's a town over there, it's called Waterville in County Kerry. And that is really close to Caersabeen, but it's very close to this small piece of Caersabeen, which is called Emlochmore. And I was able to get a map of that Emlochmore, and I worked with a genealogist who tracked down a property over there owned by a Daniel O'Connell, and who had a son named Daniel O'Connell.
Oh,
and
they love the name Daniel over there.
So I think, and I have to be careful, especially since we're taping this. We're still in research mode, but I have pretty high confidence level that we were able to find the farmhouse where your grandfather would have possibly been born or grew up in and left Ireland from, which is in this very small piece of Caersabeen called Emlochmore.
Was it a thatched cottage?
It would have been, but it's a stone. The stone is still standing. The outside is still standing, and they put a new tin roof over it, and they use it for storage. And actually, the cattle go in there. They're still actively farming this property. So. I want to put some, I'm not sure if this is a connection yet, but we're working on it. But when I was there, I met a woman who lives on the property now, whose family owned, the family has passed down, and her mother was an O'Connell. And we're trying to track down whether or not she's a descendant and would be a cousin of ours. But her name is Mary O'Sullivan now, and married into the O'Sullivan. But anyhow, it's really interesting. If you're ever in Waterville, anybody is watching this or in that area in Kerry, hopefully by the time you get there, I'll have tracked this down. Really nice people, and certainly have the O'Connell friendliness and welcomeness, and they've been just potentially an extension of the family that I'm hoping to be able to connect with.
There are lots of O'Connells there.
There are, but the Emlochmore is a very small piece, and the Daniel O'Connell in that is. But anyhow, I'm not sure yet. But it's been fun as this journey of trying to research some of this. There's still a lot more work to do, and there's been many people that have done work on this, including my brother-in-law Ed and Ed Guinness and some others, and his son Robert. But we have a lot more work to do, but you're helping us put the pieces together.
It gives me a great deal of pleasure. Dan, Joe, I'm so happy that the younger generation is interested.
Yes, it's an interesting topic, honestly.
Yes.
And it's amazing how much of this was in, it's just handwritten on journals or records. And they're transcribing that to be digital now, so it's a little bit easier to research. But it gets pretty complicated, but it's incredible to me, amazing to me how much of this you can remember.
I just remember the name of the person I couldn't remember before. Peter.
That's right.
Peter McCrory.
All right, we'll go back to that.
I did correspond with him.
So how about this? Why don't we wrap it up, and why don't you tell us what it's like to be an O'Connell and about your Irish heritage and how you feel about that overall?
Oh, I feel it's a great blessing to be an O'Connell, and I love to hear about the history of Ireland, the tough times they had. I hope the battles that they went through are over, and I hope they'll settle down and have a peaceful Ireland. Of course, Ireland has been partitioned. The British took over the northern 5 counties. Whether Ireland will ever get them back, I don't know. They'd like to, but it may not happen. But right now, everything is pretty peaceful
That's
there,
correct.
right?
That is true.
Joe, you
Yes, it
didn't
is.
run into any problems?
No, I think
Even crossing the border, there was?
no issues at all crossing the border.
Okay,
Yeah,
great.
in Belfast itself, there is still some segregation though. It's very interesting. I think we'll save that for another time, but there is still a little bit of segregation between, the
There is
Irish,
some,
I'm sorry,
yeah,
either the Protestants and the Catholics, or, as they say, the Republic.
well,
and-
I
and
think
the
it'd be
folks.
nice if they could give all that up and just live peaceably.
I think they're generally there, but there's still a little bit of remnants of it, but
Yeah, well, it won't
in
disappear
general,
quickly.
much better than it was
Yeah.
before, which is great.
Good.
So, but thank you so much for spending time with us. We appreciate your being the matriarch of the O'Connell family for us, and the Shields family. We go back with both of those
Yeah.
on this on our ancestry.
Well, I'm so happy that you're interested and that Ed Guinness is interested.
Yeah, and
I
others,
think
many
that's
others.
wonderful.
So we'll
I
share
think
this
that's
tape
just-
with everybody, and perhaps you'll get some phone calls when we're trying to track down some more information, and
Yeah.
we'll continue to.
When I see these
try and do
little
this.
boys toddling around, I think, well, maybe they'll be interested.
Well, this is going to help them. So thanks
Yes.
again for doing this and for
And
documenting
my
this.
great pleasure, Joe, my very great pleasure. Thank you
Thank you.
for all your work.
All right.
It was a great experience to have you all in my life, and I'm going to give you a... Thank you,